Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you already know, this is your U.S. General. 5-drawer tool cart with side tray and deep compartment. Today is Tuesday, as you can see. We now back over at the storage unit, getting back to it, getting busy as always. Okay. In today's video segment presentation, I would like to put out some informative information and quite a few tips for those younger individuals looking to obtain a career in the automotive service field. Just as well as this information will also be provided for some of those individuals out there who may not necessarily have a mechanical background, just as well as some of your weekend warriors and DIYers out there who look in on some of these tool review videos, just as well as some of these modification videos. All right. Some of the information that I will be explaining, will mainly more be pertaining to a lot of the younger technicians who are really interested in this field. When it comes to some of the individuals who may not necessarily have a mechanical background, it's not to say that, they may not necessarily know everything that most technicians know, but, they may do some type of service on the side to their own particular vehicles, just as well as any off equipment. All right. But I ain't going to hold you up too much more longer in the introductory of things. But as I always state, as usual, I always keep my signature lingering somewhere in the background. My Dunkin' Donuts coffee. You already know. Okay? So pretty much, where I want to start at for the young individuals out there looking to earn a position in the field. The very first thing that I will state is punctuality when it comes to being on time to your job. All right. That is a very important key to everything. All right. Because when you're on time daily to your job, it shows and it speaks volumes about yourself, and it shows the consistency and the reliability when it comes to your employer. Okay. You can always tell an employer, I'm gonna be on time. I'm gonna be on time. But it's a difference when you show it. All right. Because your actions will speak more louder than the words. And, when first starting off, you may get a certain set schedule. All right. And off the back or immediately over time and things like that, or extra jobs may not be available to you. So sometimes the employers want you, to prove yourself just as well as they want to see just how much you know. All right. So it's important to invest in yourself, not so much of just investing into equipment, but investing into your craft and your skill and learning how to perform your job properly. All right. So another thing that I would like to mention is that, when coming into the field, main focus should be for you is learning what 6-point inspections are, okay, and getting good visual inspections before service is provided. All right, because 9 times out of 10, when you're first starting off, you may be doing light particular jobs, and you may not necessarily be doing heavy mechanic specification jobs. All right, some of those jobs may go to more qualified technicians. So in your 6-point inspection, just in case, you may not necessarily have the skills to provide the service for a particular vehicle, you have to get a good visual, because you will be relaying that information to a higher technician who is more capable of providing the service and completing the job. All right. So it's just like you running a relay race and you're starting off the race and passing off the baton. All right. So that's one thing, that I want you to take notice to. Give you another good example when coming into a shop. All right. A lot of times when you're working, even if you're in an enclosed shop and you're not dealing with customer service or dealing with customers all the time, there are people always watching. All right. Just as well as you have someone to answer to, just as well as your supervisor. Sometimes your supervisor has other individuals that they need to answer to just as well. So just because you get hired at a particular position doesn't necessarily mean that, you may meet the boss of the company and things like that. So in your daily functions, when you come in, you're just dealing or associating with the individuals or your coworkers that you basically just work around. So one thing that I would like to point out is that, when you have a situation like that, I advise for you to, how you see these safety glasses, always keep these safety glasses, if not on your face, keep them on you. All right. I'll give you a good example. All right. In a shop that I used to work in, a lot of the technicians never would have their safety glasses on. But, our bosses didn't always show up all the time. But, our supervisor was always under pressure. And at the last minute, when he would realize that they're coming, he would come into the shop and ask everybody, to make sure that they have on their safety glasses. So there was times where the bosses used to show up and I would be the only technician in the shop with my safety glasses on. But let alone the supervisor would tell everybody, but not even the supervisor would even have on his safety glasses. So, how does that look at the end of the day? But when the boss comes in, he only sees you with your safety glasses on. So, that speaks volumes. All right. So that's one thing, I want to point out right there. All right. All right, so moving along, another thing that I want to talk about in this particular video is that, when you take a look at YouTube and you take a look at a lot of different channels, okay, you have a lot of different channels putting out a lot of good information, just as well as you have some channels at times, there's a lot of mixed messages, okay, and mixed information that is out there. Not saying that all the information is not correct, but what I want to point out to some of the individuals, it's an individual who understands the trade and understands the skill in the field that can see, in between the lines. But when it comes to some of the individuals who may not necessarily have a mechanical background, and when you take a look in on certain channels and you see things like torture testing when it comes to certain particular equipment, the one thing that I need to point out and state in this particular video is that a lot of times when you see some of those videos, okay, what you're seeing in the videos do not necessarily apply in real life world applications. Okay, when you see certain particular tools being broken or damaged underneath a certain amount of force and a certain amount of torque and pressure. All right, so one thing I want to point out for those individuals who may not necessarily have a mechanical background, I want you to get an understanding of the drive sizes that we use in our automotive service field, which is 1/4 inch drive, 3/8 drive, and 1/2 inch drive. All right. So what I want to basically explain to you is that when you're using a 1/4 inch drive, a 1/4 inch drive is used for 1/4 inch drive specifications, not necessarily 3/8 drive applications. Just as well as 3/8 drive applications is not necessarily provided for 1/2 inch drive specifications. All right, so I want to give you a little example of that real quick. I want to get out 2 particular different guns and we're going to dive right into it. All right, at the moment I have 2 cordless impacts out. All right, these are battery operated tools. These are not pneumatic air tools. All right, there's also a difference between pneumatic air tools just as well as cordless battery operated tools. Pneumatic impacts are supplied by air source and airlines. All right, so what we have over here at the side tray, all right, the first runner up, which you can see here, is a Milwaukee 1/4 inch stubby. All right, and then back here is a 3/8 drive stubby impact, also made by Milwaukee. Now, if you take notice to the anvils at the front, okay, you can see that this is 1/4 inch drive, and then you can see the indifferential between the 3/8 stubby. All right, so when you're seeing torture tests in certain particular videos, and this is mainly more going to apply for the individuals who may not necessarily have a mechanical background, who look in on a lot of these different videos and content on YouTube. I don't want you to get misstrayed or discouraged by the information or confused, because to be honest with you, if you may not necessarily have a mechanical background, okay, and say for instance you took a look in on a video for the very first time and you actually seen an individual using a 1/4 inch drive impact, right, on a 3/8 drive application, which it's not technically designed for. It's not to say that the 1/4 inch may not possibly be able to remove a 3/8 drive specification fastener, all right, but it's not designed for that application, all right, nor consistent use on that application. Just as well as you would not technically use a 3/8 drive impact on a 1/4 inch, All right, you don't work your way backwards, because a tool like this will damage a 1/4 inch drive fastener, if not shear something off or break something, or you may wind up getting yourself hurt or getting somebody else hurt. All right. And another thing, when using equipment like this, always wear your safety protection and safety goggles or safety glasses. All right, just as well as when using pneumatic impact guns. All right, because pneumatic impacts is a whole lot much more powerful. At times you do have some cordless impacts that are putting out a lot of torque and a lot of force. All right, but there is a differential between some of these cordless impacts. And just so to say, what is sitting back here, which is a 3/8 stubby Ingersoll Rand 15Q Max. All right, and this is a pneumatic air gun. All right, so even when it comes to 1/2 inch drive, right? And then in certain particular videos, you may see not necessarily this 1/4 inch stubby, but I'm going to give you another visual to maybe some cordless impacts that you may have seen in the past in certain videos being used on a 1/2 inch drive application, meaning you may see an individual demonstrating, okay, or putting a particular tool through a torture test to see, what the particular tool is capable of doing. Not to say that it's designed for that application, but what they're trying to show is them pushing the tool to a limit. All right, but that is not what the tool is technically designed for. So in real life application, you cannot use this particular tool on a 1/2 inch drive consistently, because the hammering mechanism and the anvils, okay, are not capable and designed for those particular applications. Now, when it comes to cordless impacts and pneumatic impacts, okay, the mechanisms on the insides of each tool is different. So in the pneumatic, you would have hammers, okay, and the anvil. I'm not quite sure, between the cordless and how. I don't get all technical and all scientific in the design of the cordless impact. But when it comes to the indifferential between the two of cordless and pneumatic, these are created a little bit differently. All right. So in some videos, you may see an individual removing lug nuts, okay, with a 1/4 inch drive hex with hex shank adapters. So I'm gonna give you a visual to what that particular tool looks like, all right, when being used on a 1/2 inch drive application such as lug nuts. Skid it. All right, so what you're looking at now is your M12 1/4 inch hex. All right, this is basically also considered like a stubby. So now when you're moving into 1/2 inch drive applications, I'm still pulling out a 3/8 drive socket, which runs all the way to 19 millimeter. And most standard sizes on lug nuts, you may have 18 millimeter, 17 millimeter, 19 millimeter, 21, 22. All right, because I'm using a 3/8 drive hex shank adapter in the M12 1/4 inch hex, I'm going to give you, a good visual to how the socket would basically look on this particular gun, which a socket like this would normally be used on, just so to say, lug nuts. All right, so now that you see that I have a 19 millimeter on the M12 1/4 inch hex stubby, right? When you start moving into these higher drive sizes, all right, these higher drive sizes is mainly more for 3/8 drive applications. And when you start stepping up more into anything a little bit more higher than this, which it would be 21, 22, 24 millimeter, now you will be looking at 1/2 inch drive. Now, when it comes to viewing some of the particular channels, that demonstrate and show using 1/4 inch hex impacts on lug nuts, all right, it's not to say, if you was on the side of a road and you caught a flat, all right, and you technically didn't have no other tool to remove your lug nuts, I'm not necessarily saying that it wouldn't be a good idea to use this particular tool in a case of emergency to remove those lugs, all right, which they possibly could. But this tool is not designed, all right, for being used on lug nuts consistently, all right. The more hammering of the mechanism within inside the gun, and the impacts of the impact will start to damage the internals of the tool itself. So the tool will start to lack performance. So a lot of times you can, funny reviews and things like that, where you have individuals who will state, certain particular tools is trash and that they had to warranty them, and the batteries fail and the tool lacks power and so on and so forth. A lot of times they never go out their way to fully explain how at times they may have been misusing the tool, using the tool in applications that they may not necessarily be designed for. Okay. So once again, quarter-inch drive applications is for quarter-inch drive applications. Quarter-inch drive applications is not necessarily for 3/8 drive, nor should be 3/8 drive for quarter-inch applications. All right. Now, there has been time in certain particular videos where I have demonstrated in a live professional shop, all right, when it comes to a 3/8 stubby, not so much of a cordless impact, but not so much of doing a torture test, but seeing how a particular tool would drive in a real life situation. Such, so to say, is the 3/8 stubby back here, which is an Ingersoll Rand 15Q Max, all right, which I would be removing different truck lug nuts, all right, but then turned around and the tool would cease or fail on particular smaller vehicles such as caravans and things like that. So therefore, in some of those videos, I would have to go back to my Milwaukee High Torque if I wasn't necessarily using my 2235 Q Max Ingersoll half-inch drive. All right, so just to put that information out there, because sometimes when some of the viewers is looking in on some of these videos, once again, if you don't necessarily have a mechanical background, all right, and say, for instance, I told you that this cordless impact was a bag of bread, you would always know for it to be a bag of bread, okay? You would never know that it's a cordless impact. So by them seeing the tool being used in those certain particular applications is like technically saying the same thing. So when they go out to purchase, or they go out, or they're interested in a particular tool, whether they're dealing on a budget or they're trying to see what's the best bang for their buck or what they can use in an application to get them by, whether it's in the automotive field, construction field, there's many different fields of trades that we use all of these tools in, no matter whether electrician, plumbers, and so on and so forth. But the thing is that we want to put the correct information out there to the individuals who has taken a look in on some of the channels, because we want the viewers and the younger youth to get an understanding from ground up. We don't want them working their way backwards. We want them making less mistakes. Okay. So that's one thing, to take notice. All right. All right. So, if you abuse your tools by improper use, all right, your tools is bound to fail. All right. There's no tools that's made by man that, is indestructible. But the thing is when you take care of your tools will basically take care of you. The more you abuse your tools, they're more enough bound to fail. That's just like you being in a bad marriage or having a bad relationship. You understand? If you abuse your wife or your significant one and you're abusing them all the time, you're bound to fall off the cliff really fast. All right. So, a lot of times some of the technicians, they say that they had to warranty this, or, this is lacking this type of power. But, they may not necessarily say how they may have been abusing the equipment. Okay. You have some individuals who work harder with tools than others. They may chuck their tools, they may drop their tools, they may throw their tools around in drawers and things like that. So the more abuse and more wear that you put on your tools, they're bound to fail, and it makes things happen a whole lot much more faster rather than if you were actually taking care of your equipment. All right. So being organized with your equipment, is very important sometimes. Keeping your equipment clean, it shows and it also speaks volumes. So, I'll tell you like this, right? If you have a vehicle or you're providing service to a vehicle, if an individual do not maintain or, get their vehicle service, all right, basically what happens? It doesn't take for a genius to know that at some particular point in time that that vehicle is going to fail. So it's somewhat in the same sense with a lot of your equipment. If you don't take care of your equipment and keep things organized and things like that of that nature, it is only but an amount of time that the same equipment that is needed and provided to provide service on a particular vehicle will be insufficient, and it will not be good enough because it may lack when most needed. Okay, and this is your way of eating, this is your way of getting to that cotton and linen. This is why the signature is always Dunkin' Donuts. The reason why I say that the signature is Dunkin' Donuts is because it's time to wake up. It's time to make the donuts. All right, so let's move along. All right, so basically, it's important to invest in yourself. All right, the more you invest in yourself, whether with providing your own equipment or investing time into your craft, sharpening your skills, staying on top of most of the newest technologies, obtaining certifications, keeping yourself busy and occupied, eliminating wasted downtime, all right, and filling the void by brainstorming on how, which way you can become a better technician at what you do in an efficient and a timely manner, will also show ambition and hungriness, okay, in an individual's success in this field. All right, so this is another thing that I want you to take note to. All right. So what we want to do is we want to start, the younger youth off, with a different set of knowledge. We want them to come in very sharp, okay? Because we're going to need strong individuals, ambitious individuals that's going to be hungry, and very focused in the field, because technology is drastically changing. The tools that we use in the field are changing along with the technology and things like that. So for those younger technicians out there getting your foot through the door, I suggest that you get your certifications, things like your 609 and stuff like that for AC air conditioning certifications, which is an easy little certification that you can hurry up and get real quick. All right, where you can possibly be doing cooling exchanges and things like that. All right, and stepping up your field and moving along in the industry, learning other different levels of service. All right. So into the next video and next tool review, next tool haul, we're going to check you later. Everybody keep it a safe and a blessed one out there. Peace.